It's time now for Tory culture warrior Andrea Jenkyns, the former education minister. And Shamima Begum's twisted PR campaign to return to Britain has won backing from right-on Labour peers in the House of Lords, with claims that stripping her British citizenship is a form of capital punishment. Watch that bizarre suggestion from Lord Griffiths yesterday.
Statelessness is a form of capital punishment in the sense that it deprives somebody of status forever for the rest of their lives. Leaving her where she is surely inhumane. Yeah.
So, Andrea Jenkyns, I can't believe this. It feels like Lord Griffiths is actually doing the dirty work of the British bashing corporation, the BBC, that has spent the last numerous weeks trying to rehabilitate Shamima Begum's legacy. Why are the left so obsessed with bringing a dangerous woman, a dangerous terrorist, back into the UK?
God, these bleeding heart leftists, what are we going to do with them, Dan? Clearly Lord Griffiths is completely wrong. The aim of any government should be the protection of the nation, of our people. And let's not forget, it was actually evil and inhumane of Begum to, allegedly stitch bombs into suicide vests. And as you said, this PR campaign, Dan, this campaign to revive her image by wearing sunglasses and baseball caps doesn't wash with me. May she never set foot on British soil ever again.
Indeed, vote Labour, though, and you get a whole load of those bleeding heart Labour lefties wanting to bring her back into the country. And I will not forget, by the way, Andrea, that Starmer himself, when the decision was first announced, said it was wrong. So he's backtracked now because he flip-flops on everything, Andrea. He flip-flops on everything. But Starmer wanted Begum back. And we've got to remember, if Starmer was Prime Minister, Begum would be back in the country today.
Completely agree with you. And let's not forget, as a dual citizen, the British government had every right to do what they did, and as it was proven with illegal challenges. So,
indeed.
Why are we trying to protect these people? It's just bonkers.
Indeed. Look, I've got to move on to politics here, though, Andrea, and all of this Boris Johnson witch hunt. There were damning revelations in the Mail on Sunday at the weekend suggesting that the Partygate investigator, Sue Gray, was in talks to join Labour for over a year, which directly contradicts Keir Starmer's claim that he only started tapping her up as his chief of staff in the autumn. But I wanted to play you a brilliant clip which has emerged, Andrea, of Boris making light of the Partygate fast, but in a really serious and quite sad way, actually, at a speech in Nigeria. Watch this.
I thought this was quite funny until a couple of years ago, the Met actually fined me in circumstances that I still find almost too painful to describe, simply for standing at my desk in the cabinet room and eating lunch. And for followers of British politics, I want you to know that the fabled birthday cake, about which the BBC and the rest of the media fulminated for well over a year, remained unseen by me throughout that 20 minutes in its Tupperware box. Can you imagine the Moscow police arresting Vladimir Putin for having lunch at his desk for 20 minutes?
Look, Andrew, I know he's making light, but there's a really serious point here, isn't there? He is clearly feeling incredibly aggrieved about this establishment stitch-up.
Completely, and I don't blame him. And there was clearly a stitch-up with Liz as well. It's been apparent they didn't have their kind of leader that they wanted, and so they've removed two, who was, Boris was democratically elected. But I watched the committee, and it was just 4 hours of Boris bashing, and, there wasn't even a glimmer of impartiality there, was there?
No, I don't think there was. And then you add in the Sue Gray conundrum, and you just think, how on earth is Labour getting away with this?
Because clearly they've got the liberal media, the BBC, the commentators all on their side and putting that message out there, Dan.
Interestingly, though, Andrea, you don't think
to be on GBNews, that's the only show I do it. Yeah.
Of course, absolutely, no. That I totally agree with. But, Andrea, you don't think Boris is finished, though, do you? You don't actually sign up to what the Westminster mob want you to think is a consensus that his career is finished. You don't believe that?
No, I don't. Without a doubt. I mean, it is such an enigmatic leader. I remember when he came to Morley and he was shaking hands in a big factory with about 200 people. It was amazing. He really lit up the whole place. And if you remember, his campaign slogan was "Back Boris." How about bring back Boris this time? I think that's what it should be.
Yes, indeed. Now, look, Andrea, recycling plants, we're learning, could see UK households forced to pay to have 7 different waste bins, collecting cardboard, metals, plastic, glass and more. Now, this is part of this Green Day madness. Interestingly, you have now become one of the first MPs in the country to make an impassioned call for the government to completely scrap its deranged march towards net zero. Good on you. Tell me why.
Because, like many of the people, I've been peed off for this for a while. And I think it's time to ditch these targets. We should be actually focusing on energy independence instead of net zero. We've got amazing resources under our feet, Dan. We actually need to drive down costs for the consumer and stop burdening businesses. They've been through far too much with lockdown. They've struggled enough. And let's face it, net zero is a pipe dream anyway when you've got the likes of India and China polluting anyway. So
exactly.
let's actually just use the resources under our feet.
It's not going to make any difference. You know, we're responsible for less than 1% of the world's carbon emissions. We're doing more than virtually any other Western democracy and have done, by the way, since Thatcher, made real progress on this. Andrea, I think the people are with you. We're becoming very fed up, aren't we, of having to give up our quality of life to achieve net zero aims.
I mean, I recently spoke at an event in the Lords, and it's a brilliant organisation. I got asked to speak out from Yorkshire, but it was about the positives of net zero. I said, well, I'll only speak if I can show, an alternative viewpoint. And, people there was disagreeing with my views, but I did point out that the people there was benefiting from this whole net zero by pushing that agenda. But regular businesses on the street, they've had to jump through so many hoops, Dan. And when I'm getting constituents as well, who they're having to decide, what do they pay because the prices are going up with energy. We need to focus on that first, and energy independence as a country. That's far more important.
Fascinating stuff. I have a feeling you're one of the first, but you probably won't be the last MP to say, let's just scrap net zero. This is going to be a huge story in the months and the years to come. Our Tory culture warrior, former Education Minister Andrea Jenkyns, thank you so much.